you did, you little jerk.
All right, welcome back, Jerk Faces. We're here for another podcast. We got Andy, we got Dan, and my good friend Darrell. You may have seen him if you watched the baseball episode. He joined us. Didn't get a chance to do a real good introduction of him. He's someone I met through bowling. I've known him for several years and definitely been such a great positive influence in my life. And he's always so jovial and jolly. He does play Santa in the winter, does a lot of stuff for kids and for parties, and I'm definitely very glad to have him in my life. And like what we did with Andy, this is going to be one of those episodes where we have kind of a serious talk about Darrell's story, talking a little bit about his faith, and he's also a organ transplant recipient. He had a replacement liver, and we're going to talk a little bit about that story today. So say hello, Darrell.
Hey, how are you?
So first thing I have to ask is, Darrell had a liver transplant, and how did you come to need that? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I have to go back a few years. It actually started as I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I was overseas, and I contracted hepatitis B, and didn't know it. We had it for over 12 years before it raised its ugly head and decided it wanted to kill me. And knew nothing about it, completely ignorant of the whole situation. And so what happened is that I came home and went through the normal hassle of coming home to just a wonderful crowd that loved to see us, when we came out of the war at that time, being a little psychotic about it. Yeah, no, not psychotic about it, but sarcastic about it. That and dealing with my own demons, from the war and everything else. The only thing that got me through that period of life is my faith in God. Because I become an alcoholic, trying to hide my pain in a bottle or a can. It didn't matter. Either one would have been fine. And unfortunately, I stayed in that state for almost 10 years before I got my act together. I almost lost everything that I had and that I loved. I know my wife loves me because she stayed with me. But I fought my way through it, and the only way that I could do that was with God, asking God to step in and take a hold of that and take it away from me, because I was too far gone in it. I enjoyed it, even though it was misery, but it took away a lot of the other pain that sat inside. Even so, I still worked every day. I didn't miss any work. I was what they call a social alcoholic, which that's kind of what I was.
Right. I know, because what was his face? Charlie Sheen, he was considered a functioning alcoholic.
Right, functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
Even though he was doing that show, what was
2.5 Men.
2.5 Men, right? Mm-hmm. And just like that entire run, he was like, he still showed up to do his job, but he was like, when he wasn't in front of the camera,
in the off time he was sloshed.
Yeah.
Well, not even off time. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, that's just. I think that was real amazing class.
You build up tolerance, and people don't notice. Yeah,
right,
because you don't notice that you're getting.
Just because you're drinking every day doesn't mean you get shit faced.
Right.
But you could be.
The tolerance builds up. You don't realize you're buzzed. Yeah.
Well, that was part of the problem too in Vietnam, because of the heat. You'd drink a case of beer and sweat half of it out, and still wouldn't get no buzz.
Right.
So then you come home, you get that case of beer, and you go, oh my God, that cost me, back then, now people are going to be shocked. Oh, $14, wow. It was only costing me 10 cents a can over there. So right away it got curtailed, down to about 2 6-packs a day.
Yeah.
And my parents were understanding at the time. And then after I got married, of course, then that was different. But when I was married, I didn't drink at home. Hardly ever drank at home.
Okay.
And trying to say you're hiding it from them, that doesn't happen. They can smell it. But,
Right.
but anyway, my wife, stayed through all that mess. I didn't miss work. I work, and don't want to scare everybody, but I worked for General Motors. So, but believe me, I did my job, because if you didn't do your job, they'd be down your throat. So there's nothing unsafe there. And most of it was done after work. So, but anyway, if I can continue, this puts us up into, I have to move because they closed down the Van Nuys plant here in Van Nuys, California. And so then I had to find work somewhere else. And so we decided, my wife and I, that we would stay with General Motors, but to do that, we'd have to go to Spring Hill, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Which is, oh man, what a
Night
difference.
and day.
What a difference. And I had my 2 young daughters, and one was in high school with a boyfriend, so that went over like a lead balloon.
Oh, sure.
And then my youngest, she was okay because she was just in junior high and hadn't really got into the social bug yet,
Yeah.
So to make that short, I went to Tennessee and I worked for Saturn. At that time, I had quit drinking. I had quit drinking in the 80s. God helped me get through it, and I just said I'm not going to touch a thing again, and I didn't. And that was 1984.
Oh, wow.
I stopped
Been a
drinking.
while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, I'm not that young either.
No.
So you were in
Yeah.
Tennessee for about 10 years, you
So
said?
we were in
from 84 to
Tennessee 9
94?
years
Yeah,
and,
okay.
and like 10 months.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
And then one of the deals I had with my wife was that she had to go with me or else there wouldn't be no marriage. And she didn't want to go. She, all her family, and she was raised, and the kids here and everybody else. So I says, I'll tell you what. I says, if you go with me, I says, we'll get the pension, then we'll come right back here. Or we can live anywhere you want. I can live anywhere you want, as long as it's with you. And that's how I felt. So she said, okay. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So now I'm ready for retirement, which was, this is another coincidence, September 1st. 2001.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, and September 1st is the date that I hired in General Motors. So that made it, at the time, 31 years of service.
Wow.
I did 31 years of service because I took 1 year off for school. I went to college after I got back from Nam because I couldn't handle the work at the time. So it kind of chilled me out to go to school, do something different, and then go to work. So I did that. So I had to put in 31 years. When I got ready to retire, the funny part was in April and May, I noticed that things were starting to disappear in the house. And as closer we got to September, the fewer things were in that house.
Your wife was ready to move back out to California. Even
Yeah,
before
she's holding you to that. She's
Yeah.
holding you to that.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And so
Wow.
then one day I decided I'm going to look in the garage, and here's the garage, half full with packed boxes.
Wow.
She's ready to go.
Yep.
So comes around, I take the rest of my vacation time off, put the house up for sale there, and get ready for my retirement. So I retired September 1st, went in, signed my papers, was home, and then the next big thing in my life, of course, we saw 9/11. I was sitting on the couch watching it, which is very stunned as anyone, and it just broke me into tears to think of all the people. But after that, the next thing on the focus was moving. So I moved myself, which is, I had no real close friends I could lean on to say, hey, come over and help, because they're all working.
Yeah.
So anyway, we packed everything up, and we were here before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Pretty
So
good.
it didn't take long for us to get out of town.
Yeah, 2.5
Yeah.
months. You were all done.
And to be perfectly honest, if it wasn't for my wife's asthma and the allergy issue, which I didn't know when we went to Tennessee. Tennessee is the capital of allergies.
Yeah, the ragweed.
Yeah, because there's no
Yeah.
break. See, they get the winter stuff
Yeah.
and they get the summer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife, because of her asthma and everything, she was taking more medication.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard on her, going through the seasons. Other than that, believe me, the place is really nice. I mean, to live, the people are nice. I mean, no one locked their doors. No
Seems
one,
like just a nice rural area.
It's just a
from
real
the
rural,
way
and
you're
I was out in the
describing it,
boonies too.
Yeah.
We made sure we were out in our
kind of like
boonies.
Mayberry.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was only 1,300 in the town.
Right.
There where I was, because I says, well, I'm not going to go live in
And
the city.
And was that town kind of like, not full on, but was it like kind of like the GM like city?
No, not at all.
Town
Spring
where
Hill
where
was
most
more
of the, most
so.
of the employees live.
No, there was
No.
very few that lived out that way.
Oh, okay.
And when I was searching for a house, I was looking for acreage because I wanted room.
Right.
Here we sneeze and the neighbor goes, "Thank you."
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
And so I says, it'd be kind of nice to have some room.
Makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
So-
like big yards.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you said you built 1 or 2 golf holes, right? In
Yeah,
your
I
yard.
built
Oh, wow.
2 golf holes in my
Yeah.
backyard. 110 yards this way and 100 yards this way.
Mhm.
They went right around the house.
Oh, nice.
I actually had 6 acres and a barn in the back, and I raised chickens. And my wife had pygmy goats, which made her really happy because she likes animals. We all have liked animals since we were kids.
Mhm.
Our house still has a menagerie, no goats though. So we moved back here, and I went out and got another job and started working for Enterprise, and that was a good job. But what happened was that every year, normally I take a full physical. And so it was time for my physical. So I went in, I took a physical, and they said that in my blood work that one of my enzymes looked a little high. He wanted me to go see a liver specialist. So I'm thinking, okay, no problem. So I go and I do more thorough blood work, and they come up with you've been exposed to hepatitis B. And I'm going, okay, well now what? And it wasn't due to my alcoholism as far as my liver's concerned. None at all. It was the Hep B that did it. But anyway, what ended up happening was he says, just been exposed and you can, we'll just keep an eye on it. They didn't know very much back then about any of them, to be honest.
This is 2001, 2002 when you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
They were still learning.
They're still, coming out. Well, they did come out with the test after that.
Right.
I kind of missed a spot because this blood work test was done in Tennessee before I left.
Gotcha, yeah.
So actually, this was done in 1999.
Okay.
And he said, I've been exposed, nothing we can do, we'll watch it every year. Everything was fine for all the way through until 2005. 2005 rolled around, and my primary doctor had all the, tests and everything from, and up to speed on, I've been exposed, but it's been all right, and
Just managing it.
yeah,
it's
just
fine.
managing
Yeah.
it and starting to learn more about it. And one day I thought I had the flu. And I thought, okay, got the flu. Normally it runs a week and it goes away. This time it didn't go away. This time I got the flu, and then after the second week I'm going, you know what, I just got to feel this, something's wrong. Because it just doesn't feel right. Normally I'd be on the other side of it coming back. And I wasn't. I was getting worse. So I went to see my primary. So by that time I got to her, and she was a great doctor. I was happy with her. I got into the doctor, and my eyes were already turning yellow.
You were already getting jaundice, yep, from the cirrhosis.
Yeah, it's cirrhosis. Well, it's mostly alcohol. I mean, not alcohol. It's ammonia buildup.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, I guess that's what jaundice is.
And so that you'll notice that's very common in babies. They have it. When
Yep,
they're
you
first
just give them a
born.
shot of vitamin K, no problem. I
And-
had it. I was
right,
I
all of
I
us-
was bright
every one of
orange
us
yellow.
have it.
I was bright
And-
orange yellow.
and all it
before
is
I
it's
stopped
a
taking it.
system.
I was more yellow than.
Well, you had a little jump on us, man.
Yeah, I know.
Like yellow on yellow.
I was like, there's probably a couple like weeks where it's like, is he really over jaundice? I can't tell.
So it's just a symptom that your liver's not working properly. And so right away she said, well, I'm going to send you to the liver specialist. And I says, okay, fine. And so that took another day or two. And then by the time I got that, I don't know if you can see on the camera how yellow that is, but it'd be like canary yellow. That was my eyes
Wow.
when I went into the liver specialist. And my wife says, your eyes are scary, you know. And so I walked in, you know how you walk in, you sit down on the paper and you wait for him, right? So I'm sitting there and like this, he walks in, he looks at me and he says, okay, get up. He says, walk across the street and admit yourself into the hospital. Ooh.
Yeah, he knew it immediately.
So I'm going, this doesn't sound good. So Tarzana Hospital is right next to the doctor's office on Ventura Boulevard out here. And so that's where I went. I went over there and admitted myself, called my wife, and they kept me there about overnight. And then they were going to send me to UCLA to be tested, you know, and because this was way above their experience. So I'm at UCLA for a week and they do all the tests, you know, they do the heart
Full battery.
And basically they don't tell you, but it's to see what condition you are, if you can live through the operation, basically. That's what it boils down to.
So they're already thinking liver
So
transplant.
they're already thinking transplant, and I haven't heard the word yet.
Right.
And so then I'm at UCLA and I had real good care and they're giving me medication and the numbers started to drop. So they figured, okay, we can control this. And so they says, okay, we're going to let you go home and you're to come back in 3 days. My wife drove me home. We got home and I just got sicker than a dog. I mean, big time sick. And so she calls him back and says, you know, he's sicker than a dog and he's praying to the porcelain king. And I don't know if we can get him out of there. And so the doctor says, well, take him back to the hospital. He says, no, take him to the nearest hospital. So back to Tarzana we go that night.
The full circle.
Yeah, full circle. So then I walk into Tarzana Hospital and I vaguely remember getting in and being frustrated that I have to fill out all the paperwork again, which I did and my wife did anyway. And that's the last I know. I went into a coma. And that's due to all the toxics filling your head. And it just puts you out.
You get uremia, you don't know where you are, who you are.
You're totally in la la land. So then I wake up a week and 1 day later in UCLA because they transferred me the next day to UCLA.
Yes, you were out for a full week the first time,
Yeah,
that was
so-
before you were transplanted.
Yeah.
Right, that was before the operation itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I went in the coma. I
Right.
woke up after.
Right.
I woke up and the nurse says, "Do you know where you're at?" You know, and she was cute. So I said, "Well, I hope I'm at UCLA." And she goes,
It's possible I'm in heaven, though.
Yeah,
It's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, that's
If
what-
I see you start to disrobe, then I know I'm in trouble.
Oh man. So
important question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The important-
So she goes, "Oh, well, very good." She says, "Do you know what day it is?" And I go, "Well, it's Friday." And she goes, "Close, it's Saturday." And she goes, "Do you know what date it is?" And I says, "Honey, I've been retired. You only look at a calendar when you need to."
Yeah.
And I said, so I couldn't really be honest what day it was. And she goes, "Do you know who the president was?" Yeah, and I got that
The normal
right.
questions.
Yeah, I got those.
Normal
And
20
so,
questions.
It wasn't Dwight Eisenhower?
It wasn't
nice.
robotic Nixon, no. That was more likely. No, he didn't travel back in time. No. You gotta keep your head on straight. Come on, you gotta know the questions to ask here. If it was robotic Nixon, then we know the coma was more than a week. It was about 1,000 years and a week.
that would have really been something.
Nope, the president is a robot. I'm sorry, sir. You've been out longer than you think.
So then, after that, then the thing is, I was so sick, I had complications after complications when I was there. the normal stay, there's really no such thing as a normal stay, but it averages between a week and 2 weeks on average. Some are in and out, but most of them are in at least a week. Well, I was in there almost 5 months.
5 months.
This
wow.
is after
Almost.
the transplant,
After
just
the
to make it
transplant,
clear.
right.
Yeah, that is quite
So,
a cover.
Oh, this is after the transplant.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and that was because of complications.
So once you woke up after that week plus in
After
coma,
I got
they
out of the
sent you into the
intensive
OR?
care
yeah, okay.
and,
yeah.
and
That's when you actually had
And
the
then I was in
operation.
the room, and then, I caught one thing, and so
Yeah.
then they have to treat it. Because you're very vulnerable at that time because you have no immune system.
They put you immediately, I assume, on the anti-rejection drugs. They have to.
Oh, yeah, they do that
immediately,
right away.
And those are immune suppressors.
And that's the other
what they
thing,
are. You
that's
can
the other
explain,
thing
yeah.
that they have to
Yeah.
watch is
Yeah.
make sure it doesn't reject.
Right.
So I had one bout of rejection, but
Yeah.
they caught it,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 6 ulcers, and so they had to treat that. And then I got some other viral disease. I caught that, and got rid of it. And all this is just different antibiotics they're plugging into
Right.
my
Different IV drips.
work,
Yep. Yep.
And so the IV stands. Well, we call that my Christmas tree
Mm-hmm.
because I went in October.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so I'm a very much want to be at home type of guy when it comes around to the holidays. And so I missed Halloween, which was no big deal. I was already dressed and ready to go.
No yellow
He's
contact
Iron Man,
lenses.
oh
You didn't need those yellow contact lenses to
No.
look like a
Oh
ghoul.
my
You
God,
had it.
patient.
Yeah, a little pale, but that's
Yeah.
okay. And then, of course, then runs around Thanksgiving, which about killed me because I really look forward to Thanksgiving.
Who doesn't?
And so, and I was still not on solid foods, so I didn't have a
You
Thanksgiving.
had turkey water?
Yeah.
Turkey water.
That's funny you would ask that. I says,
flakes.
can you pipe in a little pumpkin pie?
Yeah.
But I didn't get it. But I got it later. And then I had another surgery. I had to go through the surgery again because the lower bowel duct, and not getting too technical, there's 2 big valves that you have that goes to the liver. One is here and one is here. And that's where their main blood supply comes in down here, goes through all this, and then drops into the lower intestine. Okay. God makes us perfect. Okay. Plumbing is the issue. Okay, so here's my the new transplanted liver, and here's my bowel duct. It didn't quite fit in perfectly, so it leaked.
The old square peg in the round hole.
Well, it was you get a liver, it's going to save your life, and so you don't worry about if it's perfect. Or
Right.
And
Minor
the liver
details
was
sometimes.
technically a little bit small, but it saved my life.
Okay.
And because I couldn't have gone much longer,
Mhm.
I was really bad. And so then the doctor comes in and he says, "Well," and I'm very happy, And he comes in. I go, "Good, we're gonna go home. We're gonna go home." He goes, "No, we're not going home." And I go, "Oh." He says, "I got bad news and I got good news." I says, "Give me the bad first, because you already started." And so he goes, "We're gonna have to go in again." So I went, "Go in where?"
Yeah.
And then he explains, "Here's the good news. We know what's making you sick." Like that. And the funny thing, the whole time I was in there, the blood work would show the sickness before I would get symptoms. Because I was so jubilant just to be alive.
Right.
That if not too much was bothering me.
Right.
Right.
And so, and besides the pain kills and everything else.
And normal stuff.
Yeah, I was piped in for,
Normal morphine
oh,
trip or
I had
whatever
more
it's on,
pipes
yeah.
in me than you could speak.
Mhm.
And so then I said, "In where?" And he goes, "In there."
Mhm.
And so I lift up my shirt to the doctor and I says, "Well, you won't have to make a map out of this one, will you? You just follow the old one." Because it's quite a cut. They
Yeah,
cut
quite a road map.
Yeah, they call it their Mercedes Benz, but thank God without the circle. Okay.
Okay.
It cuts from here down just above your belly button, and then it goes all the way around to the side.
Ooh, they really open you up. That's for the liver transplant.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's quite a...
Because you have to
quite a
remember,
gash,
the
yeah.
liver is the biggest organ in there.
Right. Good
Okay.
point. Yeah.
And everything else has got to come out
Oh,
geez.
God,
to
that's
get to
right.
it, and
Yeah.
then it comes out.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
boy.
Don't
yeah.
want to gross you out too much, but that's what
Yeah.
they got to do.
Yeah.
And so, and
Yikes.
I've always teased the doctors after that. And I says, when you put it back, you didn't put it back right. He goes, what do you mean you didn't put it back right?
Yeah.
God puts it in there perfect.
Yeah, right.
You didn't put it back perfect.
Yeah, we just threw it in.
Yeah, this will go here, this will go there.
Clearly, they use
Yeah.
some IKEA's type directions.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
either it's like one thing missing or one thing left
Yeah,
over.
it's like-
Right.
Hopefully it wasn't Dr.
What-
Nick
what-
Riviera.
What are these bolts
stuff it
and these
It's like,
tubes?
this doesn't look
Did this
important.
come out?
Yeah.
Oh well.
It's actually quite an extensive surgery. It
Yeah, I
really
can
is.
imagine based on just how
And
you're
the
describing
doctors
it.
are
Yeah.
fantastic. Unbelievable. So to make a long story short, as far as my hospital visit, finally got out, but I was on my back, as they say, for so long that I had to learn how to walk again because the legs are gone. It's just like if anyone has broken an arm and been in a cast. When the cast first comes off, it don't work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got to relearn how to use your
Right,
arm. Absolutely.
and so it's the same thing with your legs. You don't use them, you're going to lose them. Remember that for everything.
Yep. Oh yeah, those muscles in your legs will
Yeah.
atrophy faster than muscles
Faster
in the rest
than you
of your
would
body
think,
too.
yes. And they show you how to, you lose all your abdominal muscles at first.
Yep.
And you'll be surprised what those things do when you don't have them. I mean, you cough, it hurts.
Yeah, that's
You
actually-
fart, it hurts.
Yep.
That's actually true because I actually had surgery as a young child. It wasn't anything major, but I remember waking up and I coughed and it hurt my stomach.
Did you have appendicitis or?
No. I just a surgery on my hand.
Oh,
Yeah, it was more of like kind of cosmetic, try to help try to get more functionality out of it. But yeah, like when I woke up, like the first, like I coughed and it like hurt my stomach. Like you wouldn't believe.
Just from the
Yeah,
lying in
even
the
though-
hospital
yeah,
bed
it
for the
wasn't-
few hours
Yeah,
of
just for
surgery.
the few hours
or
that I
whatever
was
it
in, it was just like,
Yep.
you know.
right. Yeah, that was one of the problems I had when I was in the hospital is, at first I didn't want to take the pain medication because I didn't want to get hooked on anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was very paranoid about that because I knew my intellect, as far as alcoholism, it's one of those things that if you like that, you're going to like this type
Yep.
of thing. And a lot of people get hung up in it, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to do that, so I wasn't taking the medicine. And then the doctor comes in, and he's got a sense of humor you won't believe. He comes in and he goes, "Rob, when are you going to get your ass out of bed?" Like that. And I go, "Oh man, I'm so sore." I says, "I'm just moved, man." I says, and I come to tears. And he goes, "I gave you drugs."
Can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
right.
And he goes,
I have a solution to this.
yeah. And so then I told him, I says, "Well, I don't like taking things that I don't
Yeah,
need."
you're just worried about, right.
Yeah, I was worried about it. And he says, "Believe me." He says, "I'm going to hook you up to what's called a pump. And all it is a button. When you feel like you need something, you hit that button."
We put a
And-
prophylaxis
Right.
in you.
And
Yep,
so
yep.
then I go, "That doesn't sound good." And he goes, No. He says, "You can push it all you want. It's never going to give you more than you're supposed to get."
Right.
He says, "But it'll keep you at a level where you can function." And he says, "Now, I want you out of the bed walking." And I go, "Oh God, that's going to hurt." And so then, sure enough, I did everything that the doctors told me to do, which is a good thing. And so I started doing that. So as soon as they hooked up the pump,
Yeah, right.
and then I went, and I went to sleep. But it was the big thing that got me up and walking. And after I got up and started walking, the nurses had to page me to get me back to the room. Because they told me, he says, "The faster you get up and walk, the faster you get out of here." Ooh, and I'm ready to go.
Now you're trotting off. Yeah.
Now
So-
you're making an effort.
So now if we go back to, okay, I'm at home, and I was bedridden at home for about week to 2 weeks, probably. And they had a nurse that comes in and checks everything. But It gets better. It gets better in time. It takes time though. You know, I'm still working on the abdominal muscles. From the house, you know, recovery at home, it just takes time. You know, after that, and then I started looking for work.
So tell me, the one thing that fascinates me is the whole donation process. Where do you know where your specific donated liver came from?
Well, I do, but there's only a certain amount of stuff that you can actually find out, and this is what I've learned after, because I got involved in volunteering for. I'm an ambassador for One Legacy.
Ah, is that
Donate
the donation
Life.
company?
Right, that's Donate
Gotcha.
Life, and they're the organ procurement company.
Okay.
They're a nonprofit,
Okay.
and they basically, I went back to school to learn what happened, you know, and how the system works. And so you start to learn what happened as far as how did I get the liver, you know, what's the process. And then later I learned the other side of the process. Now, as if you're a donor. And when you put both of those systems together and see what you have to go through, it's even more of a miracle that it even happens, because it's so regulated and watched like a hound dog to make sure that all the proper procedures are done. One of the things, far as a recipient, okay, like I'd love to know who my donor family was.
Right.
Here's how the law works. Okay, I can write a letter and request. It takes both parties to agree to meet.
That makes
Otherwise, they're protected by law and privacy laws. That if one says no, then it doesn't
So
work.
if the donor's family
You
wants
just have
to
to
remain
wait.
anonymous, then
Right.
yeah,
So it can't
that
be
makes sense.
a stipulation that you put in like prior to.
No, that's a law.
Okay.
It's
So
a
it can't be
strict
something
law.
like, okay, I only give you my, I only give you my organs if I can meet the people. It can't be something that you can work out beforehand. So
Well, in this case, it's the
It's a-
donator's family, because the liver is
Yeah,
not
so-
like
yeah,
a kidney.
so-
You can't live without one.
Right.
So you know,
right. So it's
when you
so
donate
it's
a
all
liver,
it's like
means
even
you're
if you
fed.
would have liked to.
Well,
meet
you,
the person-
well, even if
Sorry,
you're,
that's true.
let's say, see, there is what's called a living donor, okay, which is you donate half of the liver, because you know God's wonderful.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that's the only organ
It's
that can
something that can
regenerate
regenerate.
itself.
See, I
Okay,
didn't even know that.
so a lot of the infants and babies they get half livers,
Interesting.
and that's how that
Okay.
works. But the process behind it is still, if you decide, oh, okay, I'll donate half, but I want to stay anonymous, then that's the way it goes.
Right. Right.
Okay.
But most living donors don't mind.
Right.
You know, and they like to, a lot of times it's family members, a lot of times it's not. But when it comes to the liver, in my condition, the way it works is you if you're in a waiting period to wait to get one, for instance, I need a liver. So how do I do that? Well, you have to sign up at the hospital, and you get the doctors say, okay, you need to be on the transplant list. So you go on the transplant list, and then there's a thing called a MEL score. A MEL score is something that the federal government and all the agencies involved have come up with a fair way of someone getting a liver, not based on money, sex,
Or age,
age,
right.
status, or
Yeah,
nothing.
Gotcha.
Because basically what you are is a number. And that's the organization that governs that's called UNUS. And what they are, they're federal. And what they do is they give you a number. And you're in this file, and then the only thing that's in that file is your number and the condition you're in.
Okay.
Okay? You don't have,
So it's anonymous.
it's
in
very
that way,
anonymous
yes.
in that situation.
And the number itself, I assume, is a medical number based on how, tell us what it's based on.
Well, that number there is your MEL score number.
Yeah. What is the MEL score based on, just roughly,
The MEL score is actually based on 3 different parts of your blood test. And watch me mess this up. I usually don't get this question. It's technical.
Yeah.
It's wow, I can't talk tonight. It's the It's the jaundice in your eyes. That's
Okay.
one.
Yep.
And the other one is
Vitamin K.
another chemical for as the level of ammonia.
Okay.
Another one is the platelets in your blood.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I may have screwed that up, so
Mhm.
I apologize,
Mm-hmm.
but you can look that up on unis.org.
Mhm.
And they use those
Okay. Those
to
are the three that
measure
give
the
you-
level
Yeah.
that it's affecting you chemically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The liver is like your pharmaceutical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It does so much
Yeah.
that we take for granted.
Mhm.
If I'd known that, I'd taken better care of it.
Mhm.
You know? Because it does a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't work, you know what it's
Yeah.
doing.
I mean, it's the center
Really
of the poison control,
Right, yeah.
systems
your
of the body.
filter-
Hazmat,
It's the filter,
Right,
like you said.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes in all the nutrients and takes and shoots out all the nutrients.
Yeah.
It separates the good from the bad.
Mhm.
And all the toxics that come in, including alcohol and drugs and everything that goes in,
Yeah.
goes through it.
Yeah.
And it filters it all out and distributes it. Some go this way, some go that way.
Yeah.
So when it's not working properly, then the chemicals don't go where they're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then other toxics will build up,
Yeah.
Right.
like ammonia,
Yep.
which
Yep.
is nasty.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
So-
nasty.
I don't want to lose track of where we're going.
Yeah.
The
But no, in terms
But that's
of
what the
that's
UNIS
what the Mel
number
score
is.
Yeah,
But
okay.
there's another way to get higher up on the list,
Yeah.
and that's to go into a coma.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
people ask me, well, how long did you wait? I said, a week.
Mm-hmm.
What? I was in a coma. Oh.
Right,
Yeah.
because I mean, you watch on TV and like those medical dramas and people that
They're not all accurate.
well
Yeah.
exactly, and then you see these people that are on the waiting list, but then because by some miracle something happens and they're shot.
They
to the
shot
top.
right up. Yeah.
And so like how I guess I'd be curious to know like how accurate is that, because you just stipulated like one condition, like if you get into a coma then you would get bumped up.
Right.
So
And I was getting to the rest of it.
I'm sorry, I
No,
interrupted you.
that's fine, because I love the questions, because I want to make sure I touch on all of them, because there's so many questions out there. One is to be in a coma. A coma basically says you only got so many days to live.
Right.
Okay. The other one it could be is you could be having other effects to your body, like lack of breathing, or the esophageal. That's what makes you go nuts. From the
Yes.
oxygen levels
Right.
get up there, and there's other conditions, and what it's based on is coma or how severe case you are.
Okay.
Okay, and then that can bump you up.
Mm-hmm.
You won't beat out a coma most likely, but you could get bumped further up.
Yeah.
And see, the way it works is a liver comes available, okay? And so then what UNIS does is they call around in their region, which is like 5 states,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
who needs a liver, okay? And so they'll call this hospital and this is, we need one. And so then they'll tell them what they have, and if it fits, he accepts it. But he has to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be the right blood type is the main thing, and size. If you're a real small person, you
Right.
can't take a big one. If you're
Right.
real, so that's the two speculations when it
Yeah.
comes for a liver.
Mm-hmm.
No elephant livers here.
Hey, the first
So-
heart transplants, they tried pig hearts.
So
and
he
it
made
worked.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so he may say,
I know
no,
that.
I'm
They're about
gonna,
the same
I'm
size,
gonna
yeah.
pass on this one. And what they do to evaluate that is how bad is my patient,
Mhm.
okay, and is this the best liver I can get,
Mhm.
okay? So let's say he's still in pretty good condition, so he passes it, so it goes to the next hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and so on, until somebody says, oh yeah, I'll take it,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay? So in a way, it's kinda like winning the lottery on top of it, when
Right.
you look at the circumstances. One of the bad statistics that I hear from UNIS and the information that's available out there is for the odds and the percentages of a person that needs one, and it's 1 in 7 now actually will get the liver
Mm-hmm.
in time. So it's pretty nasty.
The other 6 don't make it.
The other 6 don't make it because they didn't get it in time. And timing is everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I know I'm a miracle, because God said, I'm not done with you yet.
Mm-hmm.
You're too much of a heathen. I'm going to wait. Your room is no way near done. So he let me live. You know, I went further than most did in the condition I was. So that's the way it works, far as who gets it first or whatever. If there isn't one that really needs it, then it's the next one in line off of the list. And a lot of times they'll call them in to be what they call the backup guy.
Gotcha.
Because they'll do that sometimes where they actually get the liver and the doctor says, nah, I really don't want to put it in this guy.
Yeah.
And I'll take it.
Okay.
Then he can get it.
Yep.
You see? They don't want to let it go to waste by any means.
Obviously.
And sometimes it's called what we call a step liver, meaning I know one of the ladies in the group of transplant people that I know from our group is that she had what's called a step liver, meaning that she was ready to die. So they gave her anything that would work and put it in there to save her life. And then 2 days later, she got the real one.
Ah, gotcha. That's
Okay.
Now, out of curiosity, could they reuse the step liver that was in her for 2 days and someone else? No.
No.
So it's just
okay. So once it's been implanted, into
That's
somebody,
it.
that's
Okay. Okay.
And I asked that
Gotcha.
question too because
Right.
I'm a donor.
Right.
You know, I'm on the list. I'm
Yep.
a donor. If there's anything there that they can use,
Yep. Any organs.
You
It
can
just-
have
it. Just
it.
can't be your liver.
It won't be my liver.
Right.
That's the only one
Okay.
they won't get.
Makes sense.
And it's because of, again, God only gives us so much. Okay?
It's amazing we can replace these
think-
organs once, let alone.
It's amazing
you know.
they do what they do.
Right.
The operation takes anywhere on an average of 8 to 10 hours.
Ooh,
to
yeah.
do.
Okay.
So anyway, it's all, the best way to explain it for me is plumbing. Okay? You've got, let's say a tube that comes down at this size, okay? It's got to connect to you.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was part of the problem I had, was the liver connections were too small for my opening.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and so they do have to cut to make it so that they can sew it.
Yeah.
And imagine sewing the blood vessels together and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Just amazing. So that is why I say no. God only makes us perfect once. After that, you know, He might have a hand in it,
Right.
but
You
it's
can always
not
make a
perfect.
Frankenstein, but it's
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
look like a normal
Exactly.
person. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So there are situations where the one that she got first was just because it was not a perfect liver. It
Right.
wouldn't have lasted,
Yeah.
and for whatever reason. So they
But
used
she
to,
wouldn't have
But it
lasted
bought
either.
her
So,
a little
yeah.
extra time just
Right.
until the
So
right
what
one
they
came
were
in.
doing was getting it there to give her a little more time till another one came along. And
So it's kind of-
thank God for her. It
Yeah,
did.
so it's kind of like the.
And she was in the hospital the same time I was. She came out. No, she went in. No, she came out just before I went out.
Okay.
She came in before I went out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I've been working with her with Donate Life ever since, which is now going on 12 years. So, but back to your question. There's laws to protect both sides, but if both sides agree, then you can connect, and a lot of them do.
Okay.
And some of them are very heartful. I mean, you sit there and you cry. It's so emotional because, and especially the ones with the heart.
Yeah.
You know, they get a heart
Yeah.
transplant, and then you'll see them.
Hearts get all
Yeah,
the
they get all the
attention,
attention, right? And technically, it's an easier operation, but anyway. The person was, oh well, can I hear his heart? Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
right.
You know. But what happened with me was I sent a letter and I waited because the process is when you're in the hospital, you'll write a postcard, you know, saying thank you for the
Yep.
gift of life and appreciate, you know. But you're so messed up at that time,
Yeah.
you know. There's no real, you know. It's like a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me that didn't work. So I says no, I'm gonna wait. So I waited 3 years before I tried to write the letter. It took me 3 weeks to write 1 page because I kept tearing it up or
Yeah.
got,
It's like, oh, this isn't good enough.
or it got wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
So and then you try to keep it down. The first one I wrote was 5 pages long.
Wow.
You know, and they said, no, it has to be 1 page. He says, otherwise you're just going to bore them. Okay, so threw that away. So you kind of, just for your own self, try to think, what would you say to a person that saved your life? What would you say?
It's a huge question, yeah.
It is a huge question when you take it deep, okay? And I do. I take it very deep. You know, there's only one other person that's like that, and that's your mom.
Yep.
You know,
That gave you life,
she
literally.
gave me
Yep.
life.
Yep.
Okay, so now you have to put it in that category.
Yeah.
That's heavy, huh? Yeah, it's very heavy.
Think about it
if
from
you
that
put it
point
in
of
that
view, yeah.
context, it's like, can there be words, or would there be enough words?
There's never enough words that I could express myself on how grateful I am. Only thing I do is I pray through God that He give the family comfort, and they will know the appreciation that I have for it. So also this makes a big responsibility for me to take care of it.
Right.
Okay, and appreciate it, because it is a gift. It's a very gift of life.
Yeah.
And when you look at all the circumstances that come around it, it's like winning the lotto. You know, when you look at the odds of people that go in, it's all timing.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't matter how sick you are if there isn't a liver available.
Yep.
So it's, when you start looking at all the factors and you look at both sides, what they have to do, jump through hoops just to get into the system, then you sit there and you go, oh, wow, man, thank you, God, you know, because He had to have a hand in it.
Right.
There's just no way.
That's true. And on that point, real quick, there's an old biblical saying, one of my favorites, that's if you save one life, it's as if you've saved the world. And so that's in terms of what you said, you know, about somebody else saving your life, sometimes at the expense of theirs, but that's a whole nother thing. It's, you know, it's huge.
You know,
It's
that
huge. It's
and
everything.
the emotional part of it, there's a lot more of emotion that goes into it. And that's why if I didn't go through it, but if a normal person was going through the pre-op stuff, they send you to a psychiatrist
Right.
because it is a heavy.
Yeah.
Okay, me,
Right.
I was out,
Yeah.
man, and thank God, because he probably said, "Oh no, he can't handle it."
Yeah. Right.
So the process is, you know, is extreme when it comes to the emotions on both sides, and so you have to respect. I respect my family that gave me, and at one time, at any time, they can write me a letter and we can get together. You know, I left it open end on my side.
Yeah, that was gonna be like my question. Well, I guess you're still finishing up your story about like if you made contact with them.
Well, what I did was I finally got my letter
Yeah.
together, and what you can do that is okay by law is I can look at my medical record. And in my medical record is my UNOS number. My UNOS number now will tell me where it came from.
Aha. What region? Okay.
What region? See, mine came from San Diego.
Okay. So it's in the same
From the
region.
organization
Still
down
the
there.
medical region 9.
Yeah, yeah,
Which
it's
is
in-
California, Nevada,
Right.
Hawaii, and something else, but yeah.
And then there's different other organ groups that are out there besides One Legacy. And I got mine from the group down in San Diego. And so they got the liver and then sent it up here for me. So I knew that. So then I had two things I knew. I knew where it came from, and then on there also has the coordinator down
Okay.
there.
Down
Okay.
San Diego, yeah.
So I did
Yes.
something that she's never seen before. I called her up. And I said, hello. And so at first she kind of panicked because she didn't want to break any laws. or
Right.
anything,
So you're kind
Confidentiality.
of going around the law.
Yeah,
just
you're a bit of a
little bit.
detective.
No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
not
I
really,
did not
no.
go around the law. I did everything
You're
that I
just doing some
can
sleuthing,
within the law.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You
But
just
normally-
went a different route than
I just
most
went a
people.
different route than the rest because the rest won't do it. You see? And I wanted to make sure they got the letter. Okay? Because, see, I could send it to my coordinator, and she would send it downtown. And I'm not saying anybody would do anything different or whatever, but when they know that the person has rejected, then that's where it stands. But see, I didn't want to be that part. I wanted her to ask if she would receive my letter.
Gotcha.
See?
Use the
That's-
mailman, yeah.
So I used the mailman, okay? So I have to send it to the coordinator because I don't know their address.
Right.
Okay? And so then I asked her, I says, well, can you ask if they'll receive my letter? And she says, yeah, I can do that. So she calls me back in about 4 days and says, yes, they said they could read your letter. They did. And at this time, no. So then, it's kind of like, she didn't cheat, but she just gave a little bit of a hint. And she says, not all transplants are clean. So that means to tell me most likely it was a suicide. It was drug overdose or something of that.
Gotcha. Right.
So it was something that was really hard.
Yeah, on the family.
Especially on them, yeah.
Yeah, on them.
On the right.
And so they just don't.
That explains why they're hesitant to meet the
So
recipient.
they, yeah. So then
It's reasonable. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. And so then I says, well, it's just an open invitation. If they ever want to know, I says, I'm open to it.
Yeah.
So there has been cases in the past where it's been 8-9 years down the road, and then the person gets a letter.
Family decides
It
they're
does
ready.
happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then it happens sometimes 2 months later.
Yeah.
You know, so it varies, but it takes both parties to know.
Right.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it. That's
There's a lot of
quite a process. Yeah, which
Yeah.
makes sense for medical confidentiality and also the emotional state of both the donator's family and the recipient. So that makes sense that it's such a complex process. I guess it has to be.
Is that where it stayed with them, or did you ever end up making contact? with
No,
that
see
family?
that I'm looking and I'm giving them several years now, and then what I'll do is I'll write another letter and talk to the coordinator
So, but as
to
of right
have
now,
her check and see if it's possible now.
yeah,
Let them heal a little
yeah,
bit.
True. Yeah, it is still.
Well,
pretty
it's very
fresh.
emotional on the other side, and
Yeah.
that's why one of the things that we do as an ambassador is we encourage people to register to be a donor. And the reason is because it's a hard time when you're losing a loved one, and then to make these decisions at the time is difficult, very difficult.
Right.
And some people will say, "Well, I don't know if he wanted to do that."
Right. When you're making
You know,
it
when
on behalf of a loved one who's
and the
passed away,
process
unfortunately.
before that can happen is so complicated. I mean, it's like the people will say, "Well, I don't want to be registered because they won't save my life." You know,
People think it equals
People
a
think-
DNR, a do not
Right,
resuscitate
right.
They
measure.
have like that fear where it's like, the people are so desperate for
And I
organs
assume,
that,
right.
like it go in for like any little thing.
I
and
assume
then
those
you'll
two things
automatically,
are very
target
mutually
it.
exclusive, that it has nothing to do with a DNR request, that
No.
you are safe to register as a
Oh.
donor, correct? Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
And
That's a good thing. That's an
when-
important thing to know.
And one of
Very
the
important
things
thing.
I did was when I was
This guy
going
knows.
through my training was I wanted to know the full process on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Okay. I know the process on my side pretty well.
You lived
I
through
was
it.
there.
Right.
You know, some of it.
Right.
He had a little house.
Yeah,
He had
yeah.
a house there.
But the other side of it is all different and very different.
So tell us a little about the process of how would I, for example, if I wanted to register as a donor, how would I go about that?
There's two ways to do it. And one of the things that we've been fighting for years with the state, which is finally now a law that went into effect, I think, last year, and that is the pink dot on your driver's license.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Right, the donor dot.
The
yes.
donor dot. Okay, well now, when you fill out your paperwork to even renew your
Yeah.
license, which
You can check that box.
it has to be checked
Oh, it's
by law.
Okay.
It's mandatory. You have to say yes or no.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can't just skip it.
You can't. Okay. Okay.
By law.
Right.
So no matter if you're in the station
Yeah.
or if you're here doing it through the computer, it won't let you finish the form until you answer that question.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
And then that's up to you if you want to be a donor.
Right, but
or
it
not.
at least turns people onto it, and usually, sometimes, but usually that's all it takes.
Well, a lot
is
of see, it's-
somebody to.
Well, here's the question, and
toned
I
in.
asked this to a guy that didn't have a pink dot, never had a pink dot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I says, have you ever noticed that question on your driver's license
Mm-hmm.
test? No. See?
Yeah.
And that's why we push to have it mandatory,
Yeah.
because you're going to take the test and all this other. You're only going to fill out what you have to fill
Right.
out.
Yeah.
And so then they don't
There's a
even
bunch
look.
of junk. Would you like
Right.
to donate to any one of these dozen
Right,
organizations?
yeah,
exactly.
You give them a glance
You want
at best.
Yeah, give me
but
$1 for donation for this or
Right,
that. Yeah.
but
It's
really
all
you
there.
skip through those, yeah.
Yeah, so finally we got it as a state law that you have to answer that question, either yes or no, and again that's your decision. Now, that's one way of doing it. You can do it from your renewal or do it when you first sign up.
Right.
Okay. The other way you can do it is directly through the internet, which is donatecalifornia.org, and we'll leave some information on this. The tape here to let you know the information.
You can see the website as we put it
Yeah.
up on the screen
Put
here.
it in the
Yeah.
description. I'll put it like right here.
Yeah, because it's very important for you to make a decision on it. And the thing is one person donating can help over 50 people in their life.
Because of all the different organs and
Different
things
organs,
they can
and we're
take.
also we're also talking about skin and tissue
Gotcha. For
Okay.
research
And
purposes,
and
you're talking
corneas.
about
and
yes.
corneas.
Right.
You know, now they're able to make a blind man see at
Yeah.
times. You know, under the right
That
circumstances.
medical
Oh,
technology is
I
amazing.
thought,
yeah.
like, they take optic nerve too.
Well, it may be that he's blind, but he's not blind because of the nerve. He's blind because something else.
Remember,
That's
you know,
true.
if you've ever taken a college biology class, they teach you just for the eye. These are just the parts of the eye. The acronym
Yeah.
is caterpillar, which the caterpillar, and it's let's see if I can remember this from 10 years ago. But it's basically cornea, iris, lens. I'm missing one, and then the retina because there are 5 of them.
Right.
It's not CATI, but it's like C. I was missing the T, and then IPL. R.
There's
Those are the
many
those are the 5
there's
parts
many
of the eye.
different types of cases where from either disease or injury or other things where they've been able to give a person an eye or the cornea and they're able to see again. Besides, one of the big demands that a lot of people don't know is tissue, skin. Okay.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because
The
victims.
burn victims
and
need
people who get
skin back.
who get like
Right.
face transplants,
Right.
They take like
Yeah,
the
that's
face of somebody.
amazing what
Yeah,
they can
that's-
do.
Seriously.
And
Yeah.
then
show,
one of
Like
the
face
other
off.
Not exactly like face off, but
and one of the other ones that's becoming quite common that people don't know, and that's knee replacement.
Oh yeah.
They'll
these
use
are-
a cartridge of a cadaver
yeah.
and replace the part that they need to replace. So there's many things that are happening in the same situation.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just organs, but like
Not
you
just
might
organs, but see, if you become a donor, which I did, and I didn't give any speculation on what they could have or not. I said, here, anything that works, you can have it. Okay, so then if they can use my skin, they're going to use my skin. If they can use anything that they can use, they're going to use. Okay, if they can't use it, then okay, it'll go to science.
Yeah.
It'll end up in your science class.
Right. Hey, I'll be the skeleton in
Yeah.
the future generations lab. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I forget. I read about this, but this science class, one of the skeletons that they got, it actually turned out to be a skeleton from like an ancient person.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
really?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
It's like the
awesome.
bone, like because there's like a difference between like the plastic, like bones and like
Yeah.
actual human
Well,
bones.
sure,
And
yeah.
So yeah, like one day this kid was looking at the, it was in biology, and he was just looking at the skeleton. It's like something different about this skeleton,
Yeah.
and then they did, they
Yeah,
checked it out.
there's
see,
there's
oh my God.
differences in bones from people who lived only a few hundred, let alone a few thousand years ago.
Right.
I doubt they have any of those skeletons, but they might have one from 100 years ago.
Well, they treat-
and the bone density is different just because of the different hormones in the air and all this junk, for better and for worse. Yeah, there's differences. Yeah.
Funny side note about like those cadaver skeletons that they use for research purposes was I think it was like turn of the century. Like there was that serial killer H.H. Holmes that he would kill his victims in like his weird like house of horrors that he had, and then he would sell the bones to like the
science?
Yeah, the
The
science
science agencies?
And because
Oh, that's
it was a real
wild.
skeleton,
Yeah.
he actually got a lot of money, and like he would use that money to
that's
help like fund his weird.
Hilarious isn't the right word, but that's pretty
Oh,
wild.
that's
I don't know why that like came to mind when you
I've
brought that
never
up.
even heard that story. That
Well,
is
there's
wild.
a couple of stories that
There's a great documentary on I think Netflix about him. It's
Okay, I'm gonna have to
fascinating.
look that up.
We'll have to look that up
on
later.
H.H. Holmes. Yeah.
So, and then once if you do it online yourself, then you can speculate
Which parts?
You know,
Right.
some people have a fixation. Well, I want to take my heart with me.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
And
There are different traditions
For
in
those,
different
okay,
religions.
you can
Yeah.
do what you want. You can do that. You can also get yourself off the list if you want. You can change your mind. And then from there, you can turn around and make your own decision that you want to make with it. But once you're on the list, you're on the list. Now, to give you an idea, right now there's 4 million and some odd people registered on the California registry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's just California.
That's just California.
Only California. You can only register for California. If you go to another state, you can register in that
within the state, but I
But
see.
you can't
sense,
register
okay.
it in,
There's no national registry.
there's
in
no
other words.
national
Okay.
registry.
It makes sense because if it's by your driver's license, that's a state issue.
Yeah, well, not only that, it's within region too.
Oh, that's right. The medical,
You know,
the 9
they-
medical
yeah,
regions.
yeah, if
the-
you move
there are
out of the
9
region,
them, yeah,
then-
right.
But
Yeah.
each state has their own.
Yeah, yeah.
Not saying that you
Those are the
can't go
CDC
to
regions,
another
yeah.
state
Mhm.
and get one.
Right.
They're doing that too.
Ah, so you could be on 2 different
Because it's-
regional lists. Yeah.
Because of the availability of livers. In California, or especially here in LA, it's very, very high MEL score. It's like 29.
There's more people on the wait
And
list.
there's
than
so
livers
many people
available,
that are on
obviously,
the
there are
list.
More people, yeah.
Wow. That
And
makes
one of the
sense.
interesting things that's coming along, which will probably open another session, is they're trying to get the rules changed to where now that there is a cure for hepatitis C, okay,
Oh, there is.
yes,
Okay.
there is. They just came out with it 2 years ago, and it's
Okay.
having 97 to 98% success rate, which is
Wow,
phenomenal.
Yeah.
that's amazing.
great, isn't
And all it is a pill, which
Oh,
is
wow.
not.
It's not even no injections.
It's not the old systems that they've had. They've had 3 other
Okay.
old systems,
Yeah.
and they're rough.
Uh,
Yeah, they put you through hell. But what they're trying to do is now, since they are, let's get some of the people that are on the registry off that have hepatitis C
Oh yeah.
to make
that's-
room for the people that can't
Sense.
take a pill to get rid
Right.
of it.
Right.
So that's ongoing. There's a lot of ongoing stuff that's
Right.
been trying to make it as fair as possible for everybody because there's such a shortage. Now, 4 million and some sounds like a lot on a registry.
It's not though.
But compared to
But-
the, what are there, almost 40 million people in California? Yeah.
Well, here's the other part of it. To be a donor, it has to be brain dead
Ah,
because the organs have
Okay.
to be vital.
yeah.
So,
So you can't be dead. You just,
oh no, you're
So-
dead.
Well,
You're
I mean-
declared brain dead.
Could
meaning,
could you be a donor? Would they take your certain organs or any organs if you just die, let's say, of old age at 80? Or-
Now, here's the interesting
Yeah.
thing, because that question I've asked
Yeah.
too. I says, how long does an organ last?
Right.
To the doctor.
Would it still be viable for
And he
another
said-
70-year-old patient?
Yeah, because the average age for most liver transplants are in the 50s.
Okay.
Huh.
Okay.
And it's not because of alcoholism. Actually,
That's
alcoholism
what I was going
is,
to.
well, that's what everybody thinks. That's why I brought it up. That is the lowest of all of them.
Really?
And if you catch the problem with alcoholism soon enough, it can repair itself
Right, because
Okay,
the liver
yes.
regenerates, yeah.
because the liver will regenerate. Right.
Right.
But these other things, they don't. They eat your liver. So the thing is that if you, where was it talking?
About if you die of old age.
Oh,
Yeah.
the age of an organ.
Yeah.
Okay. I asked the doctor that, and he says an average healthy organ. I says, okay, let's use my liver.
Yeah. Right.
He goes, it should be 160 years old.
What?
Oh, really?
Yes.
So it could last that long?
It could last that
So
long.
somebody even who dies at 100 could still give their liver, let's say,
But if they
to
die-
a 50-year-old patient.
But
a
here's
50-year-old
relatively
here's the
healthy?
point, though.
who's relatively.
He has to be brain dead for it to be vital.
Hmm.
If he just dies at home and you rush him to the hospital,
Yeah.
there's not enough time. Because
someone-
everything shuts down.
For someone that old.
No, anybody.
Or for anybody.
So
Because
that's
the blood
why-
flow has to keep going through the organs to keep them vital.
So that's why in reality it's
So
almost
that's
always
why-
accident victims.
It's usually accident
Okay.
victims. It can even be suicide. Somebody jumped
Right.
off a bridge.
Yeah.
okay, and they're brain dead,
Yeah.
okay, and they have to have, here again, we go back to the timing issue, okay, you have to, you got a small window now
Yeah.
to prepare the person so that you can use those organs. And then the law says they can't step in and ask anybody any question until the doctor declares him dead. Now, some
Go
of
to
the
the
other
family,
people can
yeah.
approach the family and say, well, would you like to be an organ donor? They can't by law touch them until that. If they mention it, all hell breaks loose. And they're really strict about it, even with the doctors and everybody else, because if they violate that, then they take the rights of that hospital from doing transplants.
So it's a
And
major
you're talking about
body.
big,
So-
big dollars
Yeah.
that the hospital loses.
Of course.
So
So-
they have to follow that strict protocol.
They have to follow the strict protocol. And that's why I'm saying if you have 4 million, out of that 4 million, you might get a tenth. So 4 million's a start,
Right.
okay? And it's really technical, and you can look this information up on One Legacy. And they have a lot of that information there, the same information they gave me. And there's, like I said, there's so many laws and little things that you have to do right for it all to come together on
Yeah.
both sides.
So it shows, like you've been saying throughout, how much of a real
Miracle.
lotto it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a miracle and it's a lotto. And then again, the odds that I don't like, and that's what's driven me to do what I do, is the 1 in 7. Okay, I'm one of the lucky ones. Okay, that made it.
The other 6 didn't make it. Yeah.
So my goal in life now is to educate people that want to be educated about the subject, help people in the process that are going through it, because education is the key. If you're getting hit with, go to the doctor and say, okay, you need a liver transplant. I mean, that's like someone coming to you saying you got cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's that strong because you're thinking, oh man, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So now you don't want that to turn into fear. If you're educated about the system and the process and everything that they're going to want to ask questions about, same thing with cancer. If you know, oh, well, this one's not so bad. This
Yeah.
one, you take this chemo and we've
Right.
got a great success rate.
And if you catch it early enough.
Right,
it's
you catch
much
it early
better.
enough is the question on all of it.
Yeah. Any disease.
And then it eases you enough to approach it in a very educated and precise way, to where if you think something's not going right, you ask the doctor. You have to be proactive when it comes to your own medical.
Yeah.
No matter who you are or what you're doing, you have to be proactive, because there's so many people in this big city. And if you don't, you have a possibility of getting missed or misdiagnosed. When in doubt, ask questions.
Yeah.
You always write down questions when you go to the doctor, because you get there and then all of a sudden you go,
Yep.
I had a question for you.
Yeah.
And the doctors don't have that much time to sit around and talk
Right.
with you. So if you're lucky to get 3 or 4 questions asked, you're doing great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to be really, really proactive to get it done, and to feel comfortable
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And these processes aren't, short. They're long. They're drawn out. Some of the guys that I'm working with now, they're on a waiting list, but their MEL scores aren't high enough, and they're not sick enough.
Yeah.
So
It's a catch-22.
It's a catch-22 for them, and it's just horrible because they're in and out of the hospital
Yeah.
with various symptoms. But when it comes to organ donation and tissue, I urge you to research it if you like. Don't take everything to heart off of just the internet. Go to either UNOS, One Legacy, any kind of organ donation organization, then you'll get the right information. There's a lot of bad information out there. And don't think that you're not possible of getting anything, because we all are. We all are. One of the things you've probably heard on TV is the new commercial for Hep C.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Saying they
The only
now
part
have
that-
the
yeah.
vaccine and the cure. Yes.
Right. And the thing that bothers me with that commercial
Hey, you baby boomers.
is they always
blah, blah,
blame
blah.
us baby boomers for it.
It's your fault, Daryl.
It's
Yeah.
all your fault.
It's all it was the
Giving us
wild
all-
60s.
Giving us all youngsters this Hep C.
Yeah.
I know. It's you guys. Now we know where it came from.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of diseases out there that affect the liver, though, too, and especially kidneys. And those are the two major organs that are in high demand. Kidneys are first, and then comes liver as far as demand.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of numbers, but they're different processes because of it as well. Because you can live on one kidney.
Right.
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 You can't live on with no liver.
Right.
And there's no support for a liver.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning
Yeah,
once
there's
it's
no
gone,
there's no dialysis for liver.
no,
Right.
once it goes, you go.
Kind of
Yeah.
interventionist, you know.
Right. See, all the other major organs have support.
Yeah.
I know one of my buddies that I worked with, he
Lungs.
had a heart, and he lived 1 year without a heart.
What?
1 year
Really?
with an artificial heart.
Wow.
Damn.
He had an
wild.
artificial heart, and he lived 1 year before he got his transplant.
Wow.
Wow.
Finally.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I didn't know that was possible.
Did you
it is possible.
outside of the hospital, or did he need to?
Well, he was in and out of the hospital quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, but to say that he
But
was
I'm
out
saying
at
he's,
all. Okay.
but I'm saying without his heart,
Yeah.
he lived a year before he got his transplant.
Wow.
And if you look
I
at him
didn't know
now,
that was possible. Yeah.
you wouldn't know anything.
Mhm.
He looks great.
Yeah.
Heck of a nice guy.
That's
That's
amazing.
crazy.
Yeah. And see, you can live without lungs because you can be in an iron lung.
Right.
Now,
Although it's not really much of
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
well, if you're,
you're
alive,
living,
it's alive.
right? You're living
Until you
but
get your organ.
True.
You're not very
Okay.
ambulatory.
No. But see, these, and it goes down the list, you know. You, kidneys, you can do dialysis. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
To keep them going.
Mm-hmm.
And, but when the liver starts to go, you do too.
Yeah.
You know, there is no support for it. And
That's really like the
you're
big,
on
like,
God's time.
Yeah, that's really the big organ. I think that's seems like.
Well,
it's
you know, and that's what I learned over
I mean, they're all important,
of this. They're all
obviously.
important, obviously, yes. But far as the one that we take for granted the most and the one that we don't think about is the liver.
Yeah.
And anytime we do associate the liver, the first question comes up, oh, he's an alcoholic.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the least.
And that's pretty like
That's the smallest amount.
that's really quite because that's any time you hear that like even like TV stuff, it's like drank himself to death,
Right.
destroyed his
Right.
liver.
Right.
Yeah, because it was one of the Bond movies with Pierce Brosnan,
Mhm.
and then they were doing like some sort of physical on him, and they did like they're
Yeah, they
scanning
make
the
it-
liver. It's
right.
like oh, he has a lot of liver damage. It's like oh, that's surely James Bond because all
Yeah.
martinis.
Oh, martinis. Yeah. Gotta stop shaking and stirring the damn martinis.
It's like, put the glass down, James.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I told you to use more water.
Right. Exactly.
And that's some of the things that we fight as an ambassador is all
All the stigmas.
myths
Yeah. All the
and
myths.
stigma
and
and negative stigmas.
misinformation.
Yeah.
misinformation.
Yeah.
One other question I have too, because I remember we went through a situation where you were talking about as far as transplant recipients, patients, as far as the way that they deal with medical personnel, like that there's where they're you're talking about like being compliant with like instructions and stuff. Can you kind of touch on that and like what?
Yeah,
what that's all about?
that's huge. I mean, it's very huge. You have to be compliant with what they tell you, and like if you are an alcoholic and you're trying to get, you have to be dry for a year.
Right.
Otherwise, they're not gonna. You won't get one. If you're on drugs, you have to be clean for the same period of time,
Yeah.
or else you're not going to get one. And that's because the organs are precious. They're precious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not that many of them around to waste them on somebody that's bound to kill themselves.
Right.
And the same thing with a person that there's a regiment that we go through after I still go through, and that's take my medicine. Okay, I have to take my medicine if I don't,
We,
I'm going to die.
You'll be
He
on
has
the
a-
anti-rejection drugs
he
for
has
your entire
yeah,
life. Yeah.
He has an alarm, and as soon as it goes off, oh, it's time to live.
Yeah.
Time to take my pill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every 12 hours.
My life cocktail.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the thing is, that's being compliant, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And compliant is being tested before you get your liver by, they're going to tell you things to do.
Okay.
And if you start saying, oh, I don't want to do that, okay, well, they're not going to force you to do anything.
But you're not going to get that liver.
But I'll
either.
tell you one thing, they're making a note in your chart,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay? And so, to make a long
Kind of
story
a dick.
short, if you continually to be, let's say, a hard ass,
Yeah.
okay, and just do what you want to do, guess what?
You'd be passed over.
You're never going to get there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's because if you don't want to comply before, you're not going to comply after.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, even if I didn't have a drinking problem like I did before, but let's say I didn't, okay, I have my liver transplant, I still now can't drink.
Right.
Because you don't want to mix the alcohol with
The
all the
meds.
drugs you got to
Yeah.
take, because it'll mess with them, and you're gonna ruin the other liver you got. So that's being compliant as well. I says, okay, now I can't drink. Okay, so now I even have 2 reasons not to drink. And the other thing is you don't, through the grace of God, I don't want to drink. And I don't want to do anything that's going to harm my liver or harm me, because my mission isn't done yet. There's things I still have to do that I want to do. And that's to help other people go through what I've gone through, but to make it easier on them. To let them get informed and let them know what you can do and what you can't do. And the process of saying, be compliant. Don't tell them that you don't want to take a blood test. Go take the blood test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that need the transplant. They're not going to take somebody that's giving them a hard time. They're going to take them the guy that says, oh yeah, let's do it.
Right.
And they know that, okay, if you're compliant now, you're going to be compliant with what I want you to do after. Because I still go to the doctor, I still get blood tests, and it's because of the anti-rejection drugs, and it's to make sure that everything's going properly. Well, my liver's great. I'm just getting older. Other things are happening. But my liver's great, and it's doing fine. It's an amazing thing when you see someone that is extremely sick with late-stage liver disease, and after they get their transplant. I mean, it's like flipping a switch. It starts working right away. It's like you got an oil change.
Yep.
You put in a new filter, hey, it works.
You're not running on fumes anymore.
Yeah, you're not plugged up or anything, And it's amazing how fast the people go by. And we have a thing that we do in our liver support meeting. Is our particular liver support meeting has 6 people that have already been transplanted. And then we get new people all the time that are found out, hey, I got Hep C, or I got Hep B, or I got bile duct disease, and all these different diseases that come in and want to be educated of, what do I got to do? And we can tell them what doctors, you need to go see this doctor, you need to go see this doctor. And they're going to give you the right information, to guide them through the system.
Yeah, that One Legacy, it's a great organization from everything I've heard
It is.
from you and research myself. Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, if it wasn't, I was looking, after my surgery because of my faith, that I needed to do something to give back for me, because I'm so lucky and so blessed. I went through the war, Vietnam, and God was on my shoulder. He protected me there. There was 3 different times I shouldn't have made it. It was just one of those things. How come I had to pee at the right time, and left, and someone else gets hurt? Why did, I wasn't in the guard tower at the time when the other guy got killed. So there's stuff like that that really sets into this brain that, hey, I'm not alone. He guided me through there. And when I got home, yeah, I was messed up with some of the things I saw and kind of walked away from God for a while, but he was always there, and the seed was always planted.
Right.
And even though I was drinking and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, he was always there. He never left me. I left him. But I got back to him. And he gave me a wake-up call. Boom!
Yeah.
I'm going to make your liver fail. And so, you know, my experiences in life this far, you know, has been really remarkable. Ever since birth. I had pneumonia when I was a child and was supposed to die. My mother took me down to the church and had me baptized. So I started with Christ a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he's always been there, walking with me. And that means a lot. And if you don't have any faith, I think after a transplant, you might find some.
Yep.
Because it's really a miracle. When I tell people there's still miracles, it's true. Because I should have died when I was in the coma. I'd gone back and saw some nurses, you know, that's how appreciated I am. I went back and I wanted to say thank you to the people who took care of me. Because I was a mess. I mean, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I remember some of the stories you tell me. It's like, oh boy.
I could tell you some stories, but oh man, they're just unbelievable. But anyway,
Tune in for our next episode for a follow-up.
Yeah.
well,
on coma stories.
I'll tell you one real quick.
Yeah.
One was that when I was in intensive care, you got so many drugs going into you. That's why you sleep a lot. You know. So why does he always sleep a lot? Hey, if you had that much junk in you, you're gonna sleep. So anyway, they have these guys that come down through the hospital. They volunteer their time, and they're called turn people. And what they do, these guys are big. I mean, big. These are football players that are big. And one guy, his name was Mike, and he was huge. I mean, this guy was towering, tall,
Like a
as
fridge.
well as wide. Yeah. And no fat. This guy was just,
He was built.
he was built. And there was another guy, Jose, he was a Mexican that was next to him. Yes, he was shorter, and I'm not picking on him, but he was shorter. But still, he was built up,
Yeah.
you know, like a brick house. And so these guys would volunteer their times and go down through the wards, and they would turn people over. Because you have to turn them over, else you're going to get pneumonia
Bed sores.
and bed sores and
Yeah.
everything else when you're in the hospital for that length of time. And I was there for enough time. And I really look forward for these guys to come down, you know, and turn me. And, you know, it got to be, okay, lunch is at this time, okay. The turn guys come at this time, oh yeah, you know, and that's your happy time of the day, you know, waiting for those guys. So he comes in, and I had progressed to the part where I could get into a chair now. So, but he had to, you know, swing my legs over to the side of the bed and sit there and wait for him. And then he'd pick me up and put me in the chair. So he comes over and he grabs me like this, you know, big old arms, and picks me up. And as he's picking me up, I say to him, man, if anyone had told me that a big black guy would give me a hug, I think I would have died. And Mike started laughing, and he goes, keep it up and I'm going to drop you. And I'll never forget that. I went back and I saw him, I try to see him at least once a year. And I went back and I talked to him, and yeah, we still laugh about that because it was funny. And you see the size of him, then it really looks funny. Because I'm no small guy, and I looked small in his arms, you know. But that's one of the funny things that do happen in there. You they're almost like family because you're there so long. You know all the nurses, you know all the doctors, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on that you know that you just don't forget. You know, here's people that literally take care of you because you can't. I couldn't walk. You know, I had to learn how to walk again. That was traumatic. When I found out that you get out of the hospital quicker, oh man, I was up and trying to walk.
Yeah.
You know, one day I make it to the door, next day I make it out the door. You know, and you worked your way up to where I was running up and down the halls, and they had to go look for me.
He's escaped.
Yeah,
We got a runner. Yeah.
come back. We got to take another test. You know, but. They're all, I had great care there. I couldn't say how much I appreciate their care because their care was just top, really top. I hope that I answered all your questions.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming by, sharing your story, talking about the organization you do a lot of volunteer work with, all the great information, the great stories. I'm really thankful for that. So thanks for
Thanks so much, Darrell. It shows how important this is.
Well, this is really important to me. This is like I said, I'm retired, so I even have more time to put to it.
Right.
And I try to. I go to the hospitals. I go anywhere that they'll listen to me. If there's anybody out there with an organization that would like one of the ambassadors to speak, you can contact One Legacy, and they will set up an ambassador to come out and speak to your group.
And
I also speak at churches because there's also a lot of testimony in there about about how you feel towards God before and after. For me, it was a big, even though I would say I wasn't totally away from God, but I wasn't as close as I am today. And I know for a fact that that He was with me on that journey for sure. And that's very important to me. And to help people is almost like I don't even think twice about not doing that.
Right.
You know, to me it's, I'm not going to get my room ready.
yeah, exactly.
No, it's just I have to give back because I've been so fortunate to be able to go through this experience. And I think that's what He wants.
Yeah.
And it's a really joy when you can actually have feedback from other people, which I have had.
Yeah.
I had one guy that I went in for, if I get a real bad ear infection or something like that, I have to go to the hospital so they can give me antibiotics to get rid of it so it doesn't get out of hand because I have an immune system suppressed. And that's what keeps the liver from rejecting. And so occasionally I do end up in the hospital with a bad cold or something like that I can't shake. And so one of the times I've gone in, I was laying there and they hooked me up to my antibiotic and the roommate came in and this guy was coming in to be evaluated. I looked at his eyes and right away I knew, I bet you this guy isn't going home.
Not without a new
No,
liver.
no, I think he's going to be here a while. So, and he came in with his wife, and both of them, you could see that they were really scared, upset. And so I asked him, I says, do you speak English? And he goes, yes. I says, good. My Spanish was not that good. And so we continued to talk, and I kind of run through the information about what they were going to do as far as an evaluation. So I told him, you're going to take this test, that test, whatever, And then he talked, he asked about me, and I told him my story. And so then he says, well, they were saying something about I might have to have a transplant. And I says, you may. And so I started explaining the process, not to scare him.
Right.
I left this spooky stuff out.
Right.
But I told him basically, what's going to happen. I says they're going to do this.
Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown is
Right,
that
the fear of the
greatest
unknown
in
is
that
the
case,
biggest fear. And so, and it was great that his wife was there because then she got the information too. So it was funny. So this went on for 2 days, in and out. And so then I was home and it was about 2 to 3 weeks later at least. And I get a call from his wife saying, Mr. Robb, I want to thank you so much. He says, it was just like you said, step by step, and I went, well, I'm glad it went that great, but it was really gratifying to know that that it went through the way he it did, and he felt so much better. And then I had one other opportunity. It's the only time I actually saved a life. I've taken a lot, but this is the first time I saved one. And this case was, I was speaking at the motor vehicle, because I go there as an ambassador for the motor vehicle.
The DMV.
Yeah, the DMV. And one of the employees, the manager was saying, because they heard I give my speech, and then I asked, they asked questions, because we want them informed too with information, because they're going to get it when people come to the counter and you force them to answer that question. Right. So now there's ambassadors that go and try to educate all the DMVs too. So anyway, I'm there, and the manager says, well, one of our employees, his brother has liver disease, and they're going to send him to a hospice. A hospice. I said, really? She says, would you talk to him? I said, I'd love to talk to him. So
Where do
after
you think he's gone if we're calling it hospice? Yeah. That's the end of life care. Yeah.
So what happened was that she called, and I got all the information for sure what was going on. I didn't want it second hand and find out exactly what was going on. And she told me that she went at one time to the regular hospital that did the evaluations with him, and and sent him home with medicine and everything, and put him on the MEL score. And then he went home, and then he had another problem. They just take him to the hospital. So they took him to his primary hospital, not the other hospital.
Yeah.
And so then they said, to make a long story short, this happened a couple of times. And then this one time they says, well, there's nothing we can do with this, and you're going to have to put him in a hospice. And I went, what?
Yeah.
I was getting mad because I know I know that's wrong.
Sorry, you're a hopeless case. That's a weird thing to say by a doctor.
Yeah, so
I
I told her, I says, well, here's what I would like you to do. I want you to take him to the hospital where you got reevaluated, talk to that doctor, and find out what's going on. I says, it doesn't sound right to me at all. And I says, and I would do that today. And so she goes, okay, thank you very much for the information, blah, blah. And that was the end of it. So it went by, I think almost a month went by. And it was time for me to go back into the DMV. So I went back in the DMV, and he had different hours at this time. He wasn't there when I was there in the morning. And so the manager come up to me, and we were talking about it. And she says, oh, he didn't call you? He got his transplant. And I went, what?
Wow.
Yeah, he got his transplant.
Great feeling, yeah.
And so I went, oh, wow, that is so great.
Yeah.
Here, he was almost on his way to a hospice to die because of wrong information.
Yeah.
And he gets his transplant. Well, that's God talking to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Darrell, so much for sharing your story, sharing all the information. For those of you guys who are listening, it's we hope the story was an inspiring one. New information. I highly recommend checking out these websites and really considering being an organ donor, because you don't know, you could end up being someone that's helps to save a life, or to give someone a second chance. We all, Darrell, Dan, and myself, we are organ donors. We have the little pink dot on our
right there
driver's
at the bottom.
license.
Go for the pink dot, yep.
Go ahead. We'll have the information in the descriptions below. Check out the sites that Darrell's talking about, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Take care, jerks.
Bye. I hope that wasn't
Nice.
too long.
No,
That's okay,
Thank you so
because
much.
again, we'll edit it down, clips, but we'll put the whole thing on, I'm sure Andy will put the whole thing on like we usually do,
Word.
But there are a lot of good clips there,
now we can eat, guys.
Food, I was just gonna say, yeah.